the best like DJ Khaled. Cats, I stack cash like pallets. I spit backpack raps on boom baps or traps. You can assume that I'm back facts. Even when I was getting racks with tight packs and hidden compartments. Now I move apartments. They keep my business account stacked. I'm that cat that seen lack and then ran it all the way back. Before they knew it, I maneuvered. Fuck what you heard, I'm a new mover, money steward. I cut louvers so my whole family can breathe and be stinking rich like manure. I'm free in this bitch, black entrepreneur, and my flow is so pure. Free thought, bought by the hands of my unfree ancestors. Underhanded gestures kept us in F+. Deceptive messages given to the masses. Only 5% watch and learn and 85% stay in the pastures. The 10 spend millions to make them feel free. They probably plot to kill me when they hear me spill free. I still be unapologetically black, cause I'm free. Let freedom ring is what my people used to sing.
What up, though? We are back. Wealthy Thoughts, episode 16. What's going on, Sacha?
Not much, just maintaining. You know how I do. How you been?
I'm good. I've been good. So look, you were sitting up talking about taking notes with ChatGPT, right? Because I mean, it is the new thing. Everybody's using it. And so I was saying that I remember when somebody told me, hey, you can talk to it, and I started talking to it, and so what that has done for me is it kind of understands how I talk, and sometimes I can ask it to write something more in my voice in the way that I would write it, or in the way that I speak, and it actually helps it. I mean, it's not totally me, but it helps it, and then I can fix it from there.
I don't know if I'm ready for that. Okay, let me start with this. Most of the times I don't want it to sound like me. I need it to be a better, more elevated, not so, in your face version. And then, it took me a while to even be okay with ChatGPT, because I'm like, what? iRobot, didn't they take over? But I was I'm the only one not using it. It ain't gonna stop the takeover. But I don't know about my voice. They be doing deep fakes and all of that. Like, I'm not there yet. I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna get there eventually, but no.
I understand, because I mean, I love Terminator, and every time I use it, I do be thinking about that. Like, the net gonna take us over.
Exactly.
So it's been an interesting time since we spoke last. I mean, since we got on here last anyway. We talked since then, but I mean, people killing people in Utah, and then we had the right after that we had the HBCUs getting bomb threats, and then we had recently somebody get hung from a tree at Delta State. So it's been an interesting time. Sometimes we get on here to talk about finances, we get on here to talk about life in general and stuff, but that is part of life in general, right? Just the different things that's going on around you. I'm not going to touch much on any of those situations. I just wanted to bring them up, especially with the hanging. That family. My condolences to that family, and hopefully they find true justice. They trying to say it was a suicide. Again, I don't know all the details to it, but I do know the police have originally told them that they found the person in a room, and then come to find out that's not what it was. The person was hung from a tree. So hopefully that goes out. I'm not going to get into the controversial Charlie Kirk. I'm quite sure whatever's his family loved him, but I listened to some of the stuff he said. I didn't agree with it. I'll say this: I don't think anybody should be killed for just speaking. But again, from what I could tell and from what the information we got, the person that killed him was a person that believed the same thing he believed. They both were MAGA people. They both were Trumpers. They both were conservative white males, 20 in between the ages of 20 and 35. So maybe more will come out of that. Again, I'm not all into. I don't have much to say about it. He didn't have empathy, according to himself, the words that came out of his mouth. So I will have empathy for his family at the end of the day. But I'm I'm not going to give it too much more time. With all that being said, we were talking about, I don't know, you got a chance to watch the video.
I did.
And so I watched this video. I actually subscribed to these guys. The guys that made this video is called A-Lux. We're not going to show the video, but they were talking about 15 secrets of billionaires. So I wanted to kind of share those secrets. Not that any of us are billionaires, and maybe there's a billionaire listening. And if you are, I got some business ideas that I can run across and give me a call. The IG, hit me up on IG or call me. My number will be in the comments. But
shoot your shot.
Shoot that shot. So one thing that came out of the video, I didn't know that there was 3,112 billionaires as of 2023. Okay. I'm quite sure there's more now, a few more, but 3,112 billionaires in the world as of 2023. So that was interesting to me. But let's go down the list. Let's see what they were talking about. See what we can glean from it. See what we can do better in our lives, and maybe not make the billions, but get it to $1 million. Let's run it up.
I know that's real. What they say, shoot for the moon, land on the stars.
Or
is it the other way around?
What you say?
You got the idea, right?
Yeah. That's what it was, right. Shoot for the moon, and if you don't make it, you at least land amongst the stars. That's what you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So here we go. So number one was you usually don't get to 1 billion and still own 100% of your business. I found that pretty interesting. Just because most times we always think about starting a business so we can be financially free. And then, we're thinking about owning that business. And I found it interesting. One of the things I got of Jeff Bezos only owns 12.7% of Amazon. Elon Musk only owns 13% of Tesla. And Warren Buffett only owns 16% of Berkshire Hathaway. The video brought in some other guys. I just took out the ones that were more popular people that just to get an understanding of that. And so just thinking about that, just selling off. One of the later points kind of explain why they sell off and what they do. But just thinking about that, like you have to sell off your business to make the business grow. And so that was interesting to me. What you think about that?
Well, that wasn't too interesting to me because, my background is accounting. So, that's how most companies do raise capital and are able to scale their business by selling shares of stock. So I'm like, that makes sense. And also, what's that book? Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Okay. Yeah.
I think I never read the second one, the cash flow quadrant, but I know how it talks about like the employee and the self-employed on that one side of the quadrant. Like you want to move to the business owner side where you are like actually having a corporation. So I feel like for me, that's something I never really thought about. It just seems like a lot of work, a lot of red tape, because you got the SEC, especially when you start offering stock, Security and Exchange Commission. So I get it though. If you want to be a billionaire and you want to leverage, because otherwise, how else can you raise capital to be able to scale your business, open up other locations, or just expand into a different footprint? So
I believe I read that cash flow quadrant book before. I don't know where it's at now, but I know I got the Rich Dad Poor Dad behind me in this set of library that I have. But I did you ever play the game, the Rat Race game that he came out with?
I did briefly, yeah. There was this group in Atlanta. Oh my gosh, the guy that I told you about, the wealthy firefighter. That's how I met him. He had like a little game night at his house. Like he's all about like real estate.
I feel like you told me this story before. Not that we talking about it. I feel like you did tell me.
That was pretty cool because I definitely was playing wrong. I used to love Monopoly. You cannot approach it like Monopoly.
No, you can't.
Right? You can't I only played it at one time, but that would be interesting to play again.
Yeah, I played it and I realized like, oh yeah, you cannot play this like Monopoly. You will be broke in the first. You'll be broke real quick.
Right, I was.
Yeah. And it was interesting. It was also interesting if you made the right choices. You didn't even have to have a high income. You still was going. You still could win the game.
Right.
So it was a good game that he made. I thought that was interesting game with that. But even in that game, it talks about you buying into businesses, which goes into our next point, which is they said number 2 was real estate will make you a millionaire, but private equity will make you a billionaire. And it was talking about 70% of most billionaires' net worth is in private equity, which is basically other businesses, pieces of other businesses, pieces of different things like that. So, and Rat Race was kind of on that vibe of buying businesses or buying into businesses, and maybe not owning the whole business, but buying into a business and allowing them to still have an equity in it, but you get something out of it too, for giving them seed money or stuff like that. They went into talking about some seed money that I think they talked about a little bit later on in the in the video about different people giving seed money to certain stuff. One guy gave so much money to Facebook and stuff like that, and everything. But by you being a accountant, like you said, I'm quite sure you've run across that too, right?
Now that one, yes and no, right? So I've worked for companies that were backed by private equity firms, instead of, selling stock, there were individual investors. And so they have like more involvement in, the investments and the financials of the business. But I never really thought about investing in it myself. I guess it just seems so far out of my reach, because I think, I can't remember who it was. It might've been Facebook, but it was like the person invested like 300,000, either that or Coinbase. I can't remember.
Yeah, I want to say it was Coinbase.
Yeah, it might have been.
And once he invested that, and it's worth like 2 billion or something now, or something crazy.
Exactly.
The guy that invested in, I want to say the guy that invested in Facebook invested 500,000 at the beginning.
Yeah, there were some pretty big numbers. So I'm familiar with it, but I never thought like that should be the goal. Seriously, like again, and we're going to talk about all of the ways that were mentioned in the video, but I don't think that I've ever even considered becoming a billionaire. And that's so crazy, right? Because you really do have to shoot for the stars. I never even really wanted to be a millionaire at first. I was like, look, as long as my bills are paid, and I can take some vacations every now and then, and I can live a stress-free life, I'll be okay. But then you realize you're just kind of selling yourself short, and like, why not? Because it's not that hard. A lot of people became millionaires in the pandemic, and people are becoming millionaires every day, doing less or with less than you have. So, and then it's not just for you. Like, I can be somewhere on the beach relaxing, but what about your friends? What about your family? What about like other things you can do for other people and communities and charities?
And what about the legacy that you leave in the generations after you that could take that money and possibly do more with it than what you did? So yeah.
True. Well, I use life insurance for that, because unfortunately I don't have no legacy. Let me stop. I'm being selfish, right? We gonna skip that. I guess I could leave something to charity, but okay.
You got some nieces and nephews, right?
I don't.
Really?
I don't know. My brother, he don't have any children. I have a sister on my dad's side. She don't have no children.
Okay.
So I have like.
You could do like Oprah and leave the money to charities.
Well, I do have some plans for my family, certain family that, close family.
Set it up in some trust so that it can be left and do something positive with it.
Right. And I'm gonna be honest with you, in this,
got some little cousins somewhere.
Exactly. Like I got 2 baby cousins that are like, those are my girls. Like, we got a whole little group chat, and we call ourselves the Hermana Prima Amigas. It stands for sister cousin friends. And
Okay.
Those are my girls, but I'm gonna tell you, like, they're both like, one's a social worker and one's a music teacher, and neither one of them are kind of like me with the business mind. So it's like, what I leave you is enough for you, but until I know that you've learned a lot, that you can actually take it and multiply it, like, okay, whatever I give you is better than nothing, and hopefully I'll live to be 100 like my great grandmother, or at least 96 like my other great grandma. So but I digress.
So, and going on to the third point, it was do not use your own money, use someone else's.
That's a big one. Yes.
And it made the point that you can't earn your way to 7 figures. You can't earn your way to $1 million But it also made the point that if you want to scale up even higher, you want to get to the multi-millions, to the billions, that you will have to use family, friends, banks, angel investors, different stuff like that, and use that to build a company. They went through a whole series of how one company called, I want to call it UiPath.
Yeah.
They went over a whole thing of how that company used leverage and scaling up to scale up. So started with some money, and then they started the business, and then they gave away 10% of the business to one company so that they could get some money and scale up. And then once they got to a certain point, they gave away another 20% of the business to another company, another group of people, so they can scale up even more.
Right.
All the way into the business was valued at over $1 billion.
Yeah.
Which was
That's definitely through, offering stock. But one thing that they talked about that I've never quite believed, and that was, hey, I guess it's possible, but I personally don't think you can save your way to $1 million. I think that is dang near impossible. I guess
Well,
you might.
I don't think they said save. They said work. You can earn. And I think we also think about. I think we're thinking about, sometimes when we think about $1 million, we're thinking about it in a way of that is liquid. And I think what they're talking about is just millions together, net worth. So if think about it like this: if I own 4 houses and each of them is $300,000 worth, $300,000, I have a net worth. Even if I still own it, they still consider that a net worth of $1.2 million.
Give or take. Yeah. I get what you're saying. Okay.
It's not liquid, but they consider it a net worth, just because I can do things to sell it off, or I can do things, or I can leverage that, hey, I got these houses, loan me this amount of money,
Right.
which is something that Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, always talks about, is that he uses his leverage of having all these different properties. He'll go to the bank and say, this is what I'm worth. Give me a loan based on that. And they do it most times because they know, okay, well, if he reneges on this loan, we can pull all this stuff.
Right. You got the collateral. Yeah, I can see that.
So I think that's what they were saying. Like, you can earn your way to 7 figures, saying that, okay, you can work a job, you can put money into stocks, different things like that. It won't be liquid, but it will be. It could be up to 7 figures, and I know that to be true because I know somebody that did it. So I know that to be true in that sense. I know a couple people that did it, but I'm just talking about somebody that's close to our age. I know some older people that definitely did it, but somebody that's close to our age, and had done it by the time they was 40. They had earned their way, through investments, putting money aside and stuff like that, had earned their way to being a millionaire.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I took it just as like working, and I'm like, yeah, you can, have a 6-figure job that you work for 10 years, and yeah, you may have earned $1 million over time, but
you got that million. No, I think
your net worth is your assets money.
They were talking about putting your money in different stocks or putting your money in different things that you can earn. But I think the main thing that they were saying is that if you want to get to $1 million quicker, you have to use someone else's money.
Absolutely.
So thinking about I can't remember which book it was, but one of 50 Cent's books that he wrote, he was talking about, if I gave you $1 million, how would you take that $1 million and get me 2 or 3 million out of it? And he basically talked about how he would take that $1 million, put it in a bank. He said, I could put it into a bank account, and then I could go back to that bank and lend myself. He said, and then get a loan from the bank, with a secured loan from the bank for that same $1 million that I already have in there. They'll give me that. So now I've made that $1 million, $2 million.
Okay. Look, sometimes I can't get out of my accounting brain, but I get what you're saying. Because I had a friend that was telling me about that too. It was funny, and I swear I think he got it off of, I don't even want to say the name, but I'm going to say I think he got it off of Earn Your Leisure, right?
Oh yeah, he talks. See, anytime somebody say, "Hey, we about to make a play," I tune out automatically. I'd be like, okay. But what 50 was talking about was a little bit different.
It was similar though. It was
similar.
like, go get a loan for like, how when you first start your business, people give you like $50,000 to start your business. Like, go get that, put it in a bank account. So I mean, maybe it was the same concept in a different
concept, but 50 was
and then he was like, oh, then go take a loan out and they're gonna give you the 50,000. And they got 100,000. Like, not really though, because you're still on the hook for 100,000. So again, my accounting brain is assets minus my liability over here.
You're still on the hook, but the thought process is that I don't know about them. I don't know because they tell you to do that and then they don't tell you something else after that. 50 went on to talk about, putting that money into businesses and buying assets with it that will gain you more money. Them guys that be with the earn your leisure guys, they tell people that and then they leave it right there. They sit it right there. Don't get that, and they'll tell you like you still got to pay that money back. And the only way you're going to pay that money back is to be able to put the money into something. I mean, the whole purpose of getting a business loan is to put it into a business, not to go buy cars, not to go, unless you buy turbo cars that you're going to send out and make money, or unless you want to buy a house, not a house to live in, but a house to rent out that's going to make some money for you, or whatever else it is, or you put it into a business. You take $50,000. I mean, if I could take $50,000, like if I decided, okay, I'm gonna take $50,000 from my 401k or whatever, and I take $50,000 from the 401k and I put it into a small mom and pop store that's on the verge of thriving, but they just need that extra infusion, and then I take 10% of whatever of the top off the top. Now I'm making money that can pay that $50,000 back, and hopefully I'm making money that I could put in my pocket too.
And that was my point I was making, but I think I kind of got lost in that, like the working your way. Again, I probably interpreted it wrong, working your way to $1 million, but I definitely agree with leveraging, other people's money. And I do it mostly through credit. And I feel like anybody can have great credit. My credit, I'm gonna go ahead and be transparent. Mine was in the 5s in like 2008, and I didn't pay none of that stuff off. I was like, I'm gonna let it fall off, right? My score is in the 8s now, and so I can get anything that I need. So I look at it as long as you're purchasing assets. Like, I do want a car, like for my business. I want a Tesla. Don't judge me. I still don't really know about the electric and the way that this government is going. But part of the reason why I don't have it right now is because I'm like, I got a car that worked just fine. And me purchasing a Tesla has no tax benefits right now, other than that little $7,500, that's expiring at the end of this month. But I'm like, it would make more sense to be able to buy a car that I can use for business, where I can write off the car note, I can write off the, the maintenance of all of that stuff. And 100% because I still have my car. But I think that's my thing. Like you said, buying real estate, investing in a business. Like if you're going to use credit just to acquire debt, you're using it all wrong. And I think that's what most people do when you really have the power to become a billionaire if you do it right and you get around the right people. Like I said, the 300,000 to 500,000 sounds ridiculous. But if you got a job and you got something else that you can leverage, and a lot of times the lender will attach some type of interest to whatever it is you're investing in. So let's just say if you were going to invest in this idea, Facebook, before it even became what it was, and they're going to give you a 20% stake in it. Okay, well, the bank may use your 20% stake as collateral, because if you don't pay it back, they want, like, as long as they see the value in it. So you don't even have to be making as much as people think. Like, I could probably go buy a $1 million building right now. I mean, we're not talking about billions, but I could buy a $1 million building right now if I can show that it's going to cash flow and that it's really worth $1 million. Because
you can go get a DSCR loan.
Exactly.
And that DSCR loan will take you, and you can buy, you can go buy that building based off what that building is already cash flowing. And
as long as you
can show that you're going, it's going to make some money, they'll give you the loan.
Right. And they might want to run your credit just to see that you can go ahead.
No, go ahead. What you saying?
I was gonna say they might want to run your credit just to see that you could do a personal guarantee, but it doesn't have to be in your name.
But most DSCR loans are based on they don't even base it on your credit. The most they're gonna do is see they may see if you're working or something like that, but those DSCR loans are based on the research that you've done, and if you could bring the paperwork showing this is what this place has made, and I'm buying it from these people from this, and this is what I'm going to cash flow afterwards. And if you can show that you can cash flow enough to pay you still, make some money off of it yourself and pay them back, they give you the loan.
Right. Because just in case we keep saying DSCR, it stands for debt service coverage ratio. So yes, they are going to, when it comes to, I
didn't know that. I just know it's DSCR. And
okay. Well, I'm just throwing that out there since I do know. And so, yeah, so when you're applying for a loan, there are different aspects that they need to make sure that you have, like my team used to call it IPAC, like the income, the property, that you actually have assets and credits. And so if you are going to purchase it like through a LLC, yes, it can go in the LLC's name or whatever. But if you're a new investor and you've never done this type of thing, you are going to have to put down some money, usually 20-25%. And if your business doesn't have the credit, or just to make sure they're not going to be out there, they want to know who they're dealing with, they might still run your credit just in case, like as a personal guarantee. So I don't know how many people, like when I started my business and I just got business credit cards, like none of my business credit cards show up on my personal credit report, but they did run my credit report just to make sure that I was somebody that knew how to manage.
And the funny thing about that too is even with that, you may be able to get you a private investor that will give you the startup money, and you just have to pay them back. So you can start that 20% that you need down. You can get that from a private investor and still and give them a piece of the pie. Where you don't have to pay them back all the way, but you're giving them a piece of the pie of what you're doing. Take that money, put it with the DSCR money, and now you got your $1 million apartments that's cash flowing, whatever is cash flowing a month. And now you can pay your loan off. You can give him 10% give that person 10% of the business, and boom, now you got this property that's in your name. And eventually, the way you will write it off with that, most private investors want you to write it off where you're going to eventually buy them out.
Yeah, I was going to say most of them, they, again, I guess it just depends, right? There's so many different hard money lenders or private investors. But one thing that I know when a lot of people are doing that BRRRR method, what was that? Buy,
rehab. What is it? Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, like buy, rehab, refinance, repeat.
Okay.
So a lot of times, because I know a couple of people where they were just like, hey, if you put down like 10%, then we'll finance the repairs. I mean, again, if your numbers look good, your after repair value and all of that type of stuff. But you don't even have to give them a percentage, because the whole idea is, because you can't go get traditional financing, your interest rate is going to be higher. And they want that in like the 6 months or so, or however long your project is going to take. So, I mean, of course, if I was going to be a hard money lender, I might just only ask for 10% is probably like normal now, like what the bank would do. But I'm talking about like back when people were really doing this. But let's just say I might say I'll do it for 15%. But yeah, I definitely want your loan secured by that property in case you don't finish the project in 6 months.
Just in case you don't finish the project, now I have the project.
Exactly.
I remember when I was when I first started wholesaling, I came across a guy like that. He had got this property, and we were just about to be honest, we were just coming out of COVID. And no, that wasn't when I first started wholesaling. So that might have been, we were just coming out of wholesale. So that wasn't when I first started wholesaling, but we were coming out of COVID, and he was about to lose out on that house. He was banking on me coming in and buying the house, but I was really just coming in trying to do a wholesale deal, and it wasn't going to work out for him the way, he needed the whole amount or whatever, because he had put all his money in, and it was pretty rough on him.
Yeah.
It was pretty rough.
I think a lot of people kind of stopped doing that when the market kind of changed, because, you're doing all these things, expecting the after repair value to be one thing, and then interest rates are higher. And a lot of people were doing it because they were really able to come out, or let's say refinance and repeat with no money in the game. So it was like all like over 100% cash return, because everything that you put into it, when you refinanced it, you were getting your money back. And then, of course, you are getting the mortgage paid by the tenants that are renting it out.
I would say this is, just for anybody that's out there in some areas in Atlanta, that if you are investing in some areas in Atlanta, it is not the time to be investing in trying to do flips unless you got the perfect deal, because flips are going to be hard to do and make that money back, because people just are not buying houses like that right now in certain areas in Atlanta. It's just certain areas, and not in the Atlanta area anyway. But number 4, let's go on to number 4. They said everything is buy low, is a buy low and sell high equation. Basically saying that they buy stuff low and they sell it high. So whatever it is that they're buying, let's say, just think about the fact, I don't know if you've ever been on Alibaba.
I think so. It's like AliExpress.
It's like AliExpress.
Okay.
AliExpress is a part of Alibaba, but Alibaba is a place where you can go. Let's say I can go buy this pencil on there, and I could buy a bunch of them, and I can buy them for cheap. I can get them to put my name or put my logo on these pencils or whatever, send them back to me, and then I can sell them for higher. What has messed that up is the different sanctions and taxes that Trump has put on stuff coming from overseas. That has messed up a lot of people, because a lot of people was doing that drop shipping and stuff like that, and getting that done. But that is the same thought process on a smaller level. Everything is buy low, sell high. So you buy a bulk of these at a very low price, and then you sell them at a 30, 40, 50, 60% markup, and you sell them all. Now you've made a lot of money. So they were just talking about, the main thing with that is profit is made at the point of purchase, not at the point of sale. So their thought process is that we're going to make the profit when I buy it. When I sell it, the profit has already been made for me.
Okay.
Yeah,
so you can't be doing this to me, because like I swear, every time when you say profit and all of that, my mind is gonna be like,
your mind goes to the
right,
I know your mind goes, and that's the funniest thing about that. By you being an accountant, right? It's funny because it's almost like everything that they kind of teach us in school about money and everything for people that scale up and become billionaires and multimillionaires. Everything that we learned about money is really backwards. They don't do none of the stuff that we learned, talking about saving and stuff like that, and don't get in debt and stuff. And they don't get me wrong, the debt is assets, but it's still debt, and it's still got to be paid back. And if the asset doesn't do what you thought it was going to do, you're in a world of trouble. But they take that chance, whereas we were always taught, don't mess up your credit, don't get in debt. And so your thought, you have to almost change your thought process to get to the point where you do make money.
And you just need to talk to people that know about credit, because I think we mess it up because we don't know about it. Because to be real with you, even going to school for accounting, I mean, I graduated way before 2008. And then I told you my score was like in the 5s in 2008. So it's like, you still don't really learn how to manage money. And, we talk like cash is king. That's one thing that people say all the time. That is like, I heard somebody say the other day, and it's like, oh, I know what it was. And it's like, no, it's not, because inflation, if you just have money sitting in a bank account, you're losing. You're not typically making, unless it's in a high yield savings account in the right market, right? But you're not making the 3% that you're losing by it just sitting there. And then don't mess up your credit. Use your credit for good debt, not bad debt. Like, you have to know the difference.
And you have to be disciplined.
And very disciplined. Like, and I think that's one thing that people don't even realize. Like, you have to be able to, I tell people this all the time, but I'm just going to say it again, right? You have to know how much money is coming in to your bank account and how much money is coming out. You have to know those numbers. Like, I ain't going to say almost to the penny, but as an accountant, yes, mine are like down to the penny. Yeah. So I know how much my expenses are every month. And I remember talking to somebody, they were like, yeah, I don't have that much. I only have this. And I went to help them with something. And then come to find out their bills or their monthly expenses are more than what they're bringing in. But they don't notice that, And when I say expenses, a lot of times people are like, no, nobody's expenses are more. But if you got habits, like if you like,
most people's expenses are more than what they bring in.
Exactly. You know, and
Most of
have
us
them
are
don't know
living
it.
off.
You're
Most
not
of us
telling
are
your
living off
hobby.
credit cards, and most of us are living off of that next check coming in. So that next check kind of makes you think you're balanced out, but you're really not. You always working a little bit from behind.
Look, I'm gonna tell you this story right here. You have to know your numbers, and you like what you just described. You do what you have to do. I moved to Atlanta without a job because I just wanted to be in Atlanta, and I got laid off, and I thought it was a whole sign because they was giving me 2 months severance, and my lease was in 2 months. It was a whole thing. Now I got there, got offered a job the day I moved there, but I was like, no, that's less than I was making in North Carolina. I held out for 2 months to end up accepting a job paying the same thing, and it was not enough. Like, so I literally knew, but because I was aware, I knew that, like, okay, your credit cards, when I moved there with $10,000 saved and no debt, I knew, like, okay, $1,000 worth of debt is going to accumulate every month because you're just not going to be making it. I mean, thankfully, I worked there like from December to August, and then I got another job in December. And but you do what you have to do to go through those things, because if you just don't have it, you still got to eat, you still got bills to pay.
Yeah.
But you need to be aware of what you're doing and how to get out of it.
And how to get out of it, and what you're gonna do to get out of it, even if that's take on another job or find a way to get some business leverage or something. You got to figure out to get out of it. So
like, don't look at your situation and just think this is how it's supposed to be. But I did want to touch on, like, just to get back on track to what you just said with the buy low, sell high. When I heard that, it reminded me of Pastor Lee at Eagles Nest Church in Atlanta. I was going to that church when I was there, and every now and then when I'm feeling off, I zoom in, to them on Sundays. But his background is finance. And another thing about him, when he first became a preacher, he had to teach like Sunday school. So his messages are very like basic, and they're like, straight to the point. But I remember when it was around like 2020, when the pandemic was happening and people were like panicked about the stock market and all this. And he's like to people that are used to investing, it's like going to Macy's and buying stuff on sale. And I was trying to grasp that concept, but when you're sitting over here trying to, like, everything looks like it's falling apart, we can't go outside, we out of tissue. Well, we won't out of tissue, but we're out of everything.
The funny thing is him saying that's basically what they said on the video.
And that's why it made me think of him. I'm like I knew he was smart, and I knew that was his background, but he might be a billionaire. Who knows?
They said that when everything goes down, it's like Black Friday for a billionaire.
Exactly. And it's funny because, like, when you see your stock going down, because this is kind of where I was at in that moment, it's hard to take money out your pocket and put into
because it's gonna come back, and that's what that's what you do. So I don't even let it chance. I make sure that 10% of each of my checks, besides what goes into my 401k, goes straight into into another Roth account outside of my 401k. And I that way I don't see it. And I don't. So I'm already living off the 90% and probably less than that, really, because the other part that I just don't see is how much is going into my 401 my work 401k. I think I have that set at about 8%. So yeah, I don't see a lot of my check, almost 20% of my check from the get-go.
Okay, so I know we got a lot of points to make. We might have to just get to 5 today, because I want to pause and ask you something real quick, because I was doing that too. But the hardest part for me, like, yeah, that money comes out and you're faithful, but then how I just said cash is not king. I would just let it sit there in cash because I didn't know what to do with it. I was so scared. And I see what you're saying about, like, and what this video says, it's on sale. And what Pastor Lee says, it's on sale. But then in the back of my mind, because I'm very, I think, risk adverse, I'm like, well, what if this Tesla stock I have ends up being like Redbox or Blockbuster? Because I'm sure nobody saw that coming either. So how do you actually go from?
Well, this is the thing. You have to study. You have to study. And I'm gonna tell you, we talked about ChatGPT earlier, right? ChatGPT, I'm not saying is all in all, and that's because it gets all this information from different stuff that's out in the internet already, right? But there's a reason why these people have this money and everything. And so I asked ChatGPT about different companies,
Okay.
And I'll literally phrase it this way. I'll say, ChatGPT, I need you to act as a financial advisor and tell me about this stock. And I need the disadvantages, the advantages. I need what dividends it pay out. I need, I lay it out what I want them to tell me. And then if it don't give me what I want, I add more to it. I keep asking questions until I get enough information to make a solid decision. The other thing that I do is I normally pay attention to what rich people doing. I bought Rivian stock a while back because, and again, this is not, let's lay this out right now while I say this. This is not stock advice.
Right.
I am not a stock advisor, so you have to do your own research. For me, I bought into Rivian because I saw Ford Motor Company putting money into Rivian. Ford Motor Company is what they would call a blue chip stock or whatever. Ford Motor Company has been around for over 100 years. Probably ain't going nowhere no time soon. And its stock right now is at a low, and probably will eventually go back up high again. So it's going, and it's, and they pay dividends. And the fact that they were buying into Rivian made me interested in buying into Rivian.
Okay.
The fact that they were putting money into Rivian made me say, okay, well, maybe I need to put money into Rivian. If Ford is putting money into Rivian, I'll put money into Rivian. The other thing is you have to pay attention to what's going on outside of that. If you see Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett deciding to pull out of a certain company, you might want to pull out of that company. You know what I'm saying? You might want to be thinking about, if he's pulling out, there's a reason. This man has been doing this for years, and he's seen all the ups and downs. And if he's pulling out, or Berkshire Hathaway is pulling out, you might want to pull out of that company. I also invest in some REITs, REITs, real estate investment trust. I invest in those because they pay high dividends. And so I put that money, I will let it sit for a minute while I'm figuring out where I want to put it. And I let it gain so that I could buy a number of those stocks at a time. And then I buy them at a time. The money is not liquid. I can always pull it. I wanted to pull it recently, after buying a house. I always say, I'm mad at all my friends that did not tell me, because, when you buy a house for a business, it's different than buying a house for yourself. Especially when you got other business partners helping you with buying the house. My money wasn't being involved. My money was involved in buying a house for myself. and I'm sitting here like, why y'all ain't tell me that when you buy a house, you run out of money? Like, like you go through a stint of just not having no money. So, it's all good. I thought about pulling some money out of some spots, but I looked at the money and I looked at what was going on with the stocks, and I was like, ooh, I don't want to pull this money, because even if it go down, it's going to come back up. And I'm like, I'm making too much money to pull any money right now from it. They doing a good job right now of trying to keep these stocks up, although that the people are in fear and people are not buying the way they were buying. Some kind of way they finagling these numbers to make them look good. But while they finagling them, I pulled money out of some of my stocks to get my down payment for my house and stuff like that. But just starting it over, getting the money back and everything like that. I mean, that's what I do. I'm telling you, what you probably need to do is study it a little bit, read up on some books on stock. Hold on, I'm gonna tell you a book that
you gonna give me some homework, because what you telling me as you was talking, I'm like, you're right. And I always give up because of my accounting background, when I start doing research, I want to look at the financial statements. I want to look at P&Ls. I want to read the managements. Like,
I don't have the other book, but there's a book by Ray Diallo. I have to get that book. I don't have it in this room. It's in the other room. But this book right here, this Tony Robbins book called Money Master the Game, he talks to a bunch of different financial advisors, and Ray Diallo is one of them that he speaks to. I want to say Warren Buffett. I think he talks to a couple different ones in this book. And basically they kind of break down how to invest in a safe way.
Okay.
In a way that will still gain you money. And yes, it could fluctuate, but most likely you're gonna always be above the the inflation rate. You'll always be above the inflation rate, and you'll if you're not above the inflation rate, invest in the way that they're talking about, most likely the whole system is crumbling right now anyway at that point. So that's the thing. It's really if I would say the safest way to invest, if you don't know, is the S&P 500.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that VOO, I do like that. I love seeing that one. Here's the problem. Going back to the point before we move on, the buy low, sell high. It's like when I see what it is now, I'm like, but I want it at the price that I bought it for a couple of years ago.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, what you bought it at like $150, $100.
It was cheap. It was cheap.
And I think now that thing is at like 240, 250, something like that. If not higher, it may be higher than that. But yeah, and even with my 401k, I make sure that I how can I put it? I make sure that I invest in it, and I am a little bit more risky with the 401k. I will say that I invest in some riskier things with the 401k. But that the company that my job uses, it doesn't let you do too much risky stuff with your 401k anyway. But I do invest on the riskier side of what they have.
Okay. So how risky are you? Do you do like whatever fund? Because I know usually when you're through a company, they'll go ahead and put you in some type of fund that's close to your target retirement date. Or do you actually do your own, like you get to pick some stocks as well?
I don't pick any stocks with my 401k. I don't even think they allow us to, but I've never tried. I invest in the more riskier fund that they have.
Okay.
So I will invest in the more riskier fund that they have. With my Roth, I have some stuff that's risky. And I look at it this way. I would have put that $100 into some other bullshit anyway.
Yeah.
So
that's how I felt when I bought that XRP. Again, I don't be knowing anything. And somebody was like, oh, I think it's gonna be this. I'm like, let me buy 100 shares.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still holding on to a bunch of XRP coins now because I still I'm hoping that I bought them at, around 50 cents when they were 50 cents, $1 or whatever. And I'm hoping that they eventually go up to that $50 that they talking about. If they do, I'm gonna cash out. Because at one point I heard they were going to go up to $12, $13 a coin, which would have been good for me. I bought a lot of coins at 50 cents. And then I've heard that they're going to go up to $50 to $100 a coin, which would be even better. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think anything's going to go up in the next. I didn't, and this ain't got nothing to do with Trump or anything like that. I'm not a Trump fan, but I will say this has nothing to do with Trump or anything. I thought whoever won the presidency, whether it was going to be Trump, Kamala, or Biden, if Biden would have stayed in, I thought the economy was going to drop anyway. Right. It's just been time. There's cycles, and we've been in this up cycle for over almost 17 years now. Since 2009-10, we started coming back up. After that bubble in 2007 through 2009, 2010 up to now, we've been coming up. You're talking about a 15-year cycle, and normally cycles go every 7 to 10 years, and we were running up on 15 years. So there's going to be a bubble, and different things had to change because at some point there's going to be anarchy. Most people can't even afford to go buy a house right now.
Right.
I know we didn't kind of went off of what we was talking about, but I'm just saying. I mean, in order to become a billionaire, you got to be able to do the first things. You got to be able to do the little stuff first, and build from there. And so you can't buy low if everything is already high. Right. So there has to be a correction, and there's a correction too because those rich people need you to buy. And if the stuff is too high, you're not gonna buy. And they understand that. So you have to have some type of correction to where the prices come down to where it's sustainable so that we can build again from there.
Or just leave the country. I'm messing.
Or
Anyway.
just leave the country. Okay. I mean, but you still got to make some money because even in these other countries, you still got to have some money coming in to live.
Well, true. But I guess that's where I would say, hey, like I know my plan when the year came in was like, hey, I'm just going to stack as much as I can in 2025 and then see like how this year done went and then kind of go from there. Because yeah, you can save, but you don't really need that much. And there's a lot of jobs you can do remotely too. So
it is.
Just throwing it out there. But
it is. I mean, and hey, so. That was my plan back in the day. It's still my plan to buy land, abroad. But I don't foresee myself leaving America fully. Not that I'm saying that America is the greatest, because there's things that America definitely is fucked up on. But I am saying that until I can go other places and be like, ooh, I see something here. I haven't seen that yet.
And I think also one difference that I'm thinking off the top of my head is that you have children. So like your decision affects other people.
Yeah.
Mine.
Yeah, hey, yours. No.
I can fly back in.
And when they get older, it'll be different because then my decision don't necessarily affect them as much.
Right. Like that would be messed up to kind of uproot children.
That give them a chance to come and visit. But let's go to number 6 because I thought number 6 was pretty.
Did we skip 5 though? Because it was just talking about the art.
5 was. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go to number 5. I can't read my own writing. This is number 5.
That's
art. It was art is a preferred store of value that can be easily moved around. And I thought that was interesting because the one thing that they pointed out was we were just talking about stocks, where stocks are hard to move. Mm-hmm. It's hard to get them liquid and move them around into different stuff. Even if I decide I want to sell some of my stock, some of one stock off to buy another stock, I still got to sell it and wait for the money to drop back in so that I can buy the other stock. Right. And whereas they were talking about how easy art is to move because you can lease it. You can lease it to different museums and stuff like that, and take those museums and they'll pay you for the use of it. And it's still yours, but you're getting paid for them to use your art. Right. I thought that was very interesting. That I've always looked at art and thought about it. I mean, I try to, I try to buy. I bought some art over the years, but I just never thought of it that way. I just, it was always decoration, and I always tried to wonder why art was such a big thing. Why I would always see, I always try to wonder, I was wondering what those art auctions was about. I remember the old famous the Cosby Show episode when they bought her family member's piece of art that they hung up, and how they were so happy that they won it. But I just, I didn't realize how you could take that art and give it to a museum and they'll lease it from you and stuff like that. And then some of these billionaires, they just give their art to the place. They let the place use it and but it's still theirs. And if they want to take it, they can always take it back.
Now, what's interesting is they made a point and said that this was an asset class for like the ultra wealthy, which is probably why I never thought of it either. But I was watching this show and it reminded me, I'm crazy, but Steve Martin, do you remember him from back in the day? Yeah. And I just happened to was researching something about him, and his wife are really into art. And they were talking about how they don't really share their art with other people because it's something just for them, but they're excited that they're going to leave it to some museum so it could be shared with the world. So it's just funny how these ultra wealthy people are really into it, but it's just I could not see myself paying that much for art.
Yeah, but I think you probably could see yourself paying that much for art when I could buy it, and let's say if I don't lease it to a place to get the money, I can buy it and give it to a place as a donation, and now that's a write-off that can keep me from having to pay taxes.
Is it though?
Is
I
it?
guess if you're doing it through your business, right? Because I'm like, didn't he do away? I hate to say he, but let's say, didn't the tax code do away with charitable contribution deductions? I think they eliminated that.
I don't think so for certain businesses. So most people,
Yeah, for businesses, yeah.
so most of these wealthy people, I'm quite sure, are not buying this art in their name. They're most likely buying it through an LLC,
Okay.
or a S corp, or a trust.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm quite sure that, you know, they're not buying it in Bill Gates is not. I'm quite sure Bill Gates is not going out and buying the art in Bill Gates' name. It's in whatever philanthropy company he has, the whatever 501c3 he has.
If he's planning to donate it.
If he's planning to donate it, but you do know that, you know, those 501c3s, they are money pots in many ways, because they changed the law, but I think you only have to do about 30% of what. Only 30% of the funds that come in for I think it's 30. It was less than that before. I think it's 30 now. I think they moved it up 30 because somebody was cheating the system. But you only have to use about 30% of what you make, or what comes into the 501c3 for what the purpose of the 501c3 is. The rest of it could be used to run the business, whether that is buying property for the business to have and stuff like that. I'm not going to name an LLC, a 501c3 that I'm thinking about right in my head right now. That's
You going to say church?
No, it ain't even a church.
That's the one you're not going to say.
And I know that's in a building that they probably shouldn't be in, because they ain't bringing in enough money to be doing that. But, you know, instead of using the money for other things that it could be used for, they're using it to put money in their pockets and have a nice office and stuff like that. But whatever, that's on a whole nother thing. I don't want to, because if I mess around and say the name, it'll be bad. So okay,
so look, I mean, we went through the first five.
We went through the first five. I was gonna keep going.
You want to keep going? Okay, let's go. I'm gonna get
going. I wanted to say this one, and then we can stop at this one. We'll pick it up again on the next episode. So number 6 is stocks won't get you to $1 billion, and neither will luck. That was the number 6 thought process. And since we've been talking about stocks, and they did make the distinction to say, hey, stocks will get you millions of dollars. It could get you to millions of dollars, but you're going to eventually have to figure out other ways to move your money to get to that billion, if you're talking about going towards $1 billion. And so with that being said, I do want to say this, is that most people that's listening to this, $1 billion is too far-fetched in there to think about that, right? Some people is just trying to get to $100,000. Some people just trying to buy a house right now. You know what I'm saying? The thought process that I come again when I say in wealthy thoughts, I'm thinking of a point of view of changing the way you think too, right? Of thinking bigger than just a house. You know, maybe 2 houses, maybe a house for you and a house that you can rent out. Maybe a house for you and a house that you can give to your child, or your mother, or whatever it is. I just want people to expand their thinking, enlarge their cap in their mind, more than just, you know, living check to check, or just having enough to go on that one vacation a year, or them 2 couple vacations a year, and get past thinking, or even getting past thinking, hey, for some women, all I got to do is get me a couple dudes and they'll take me on some vacation. I want people to start getting in the process of thinking,
or dudes thinking they can get a girl.
Or dudes thinking they can get a girl. You know, they can get flued out too.
On income tax.
Yeah, hey, I'm gonna go get me a fat girl doing income tax. I said it because that's what people.
Right, you're right. Look, because now I'm gonna go there and say that.
Hey, we'll even go with your boy Biggie talking about pimped out of SSI. I mean,
oh my goodness. I was gonna say the new term is they call them hobosexuals.
Hobosexuals. Wow. I had never heard that before.
Looking for somewhere to live.
Oh wow, that's crazy. And but I mean, you know, if somebody come across this video, I want them to be, you know, thinking along the lines of, okay, what, you know, yeah, I may not make a billion, you know, I'm talking about this because I watched this video. I watch these ALUX videos, and these ALUX videos are always talking about billionaires. I'm not nowhere in here thinking that it's far-fetched for me to even think that I would be a billionaire, but it's not a thought process that I'm like, ooh, is it wrong? Anything wrong with dreaming and hoping and wishing? Is anything, you know, like you said, if you shoot for the moon, you'll land, you know, if you don't make the moon, you can land amongst the stars.
Right.
You know, you know, I'm not too far, or I don't feel like I would be too far off a million. You know, just trying, you know, not liquid, but you know, if you get a billion, you know, you a million liquid. you know, you millions in liquid or whatever. But you know, you're trying to get to a point where you have a different thought process, a different way of thinking. You want to be thinking bigger than just my job, and bigger than just yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Bigger than your current situation.
Yeah, thinking bigger than just yourself. Thinking about your kids and what's going to happen when they have grandkids, and are you going to be able to do things for your grandkids, and are you going to leave a legacy for your grandkids? You know, I mean, those people that follow the Bible, but it ain't just the Bible. Most holy books, whether it's the Quran, whether it's the Torah, speaks on a good man, and in this case, we'll say good people, a good man or a woman, will leave an inheritance to their children's children. And so you can't leave an inheritance if you ain't got nothing to leave. And don't get me wrong, I think words of wisdom is great inheritance. I think that is great stuff to leave. But give me some money to go along with them words of wisdom so that I could you know, do some things and
Right.
make some moves and have some things, and I can bury you correctly. Or, you know, I want to leave my kids something where they can bury me correctly, and they got money to do some things that they want to do for their kids, and their kids got enough money to do for their kids. You know what I'm saying? We can keep ramping this up each generation. So that's my thought process with it. I think you know, people will say, oh, well, I don't even want to listen to this because he talking about billions. It ain't just about talking about billions. It's about talking about changing your mindset, wealthy thoughts.
Right.
The wealthy thoughts don't have to be billions, but the wealthy thoughts, we are talking about expanding your worldview, getting into a thought process of thinking like people that have money, so that you can do the things that they do, in the sense of how you move your money around in a way that you move with your money, instead of always splurging. Think about, how can I take this money, buy an asset that's going to make me money, that can make me be able to go out and splurge. You know, if I buy 3 houses and each one of those houses are giving me $500 a month in cash flow, I have made $1,500 extra a month. That $1,500 extra a month now could be that BMW that you wanted, or that trip that you were trying to get done. It could be that, but you have to start somewhere. Yeah. And so that's why I wanted to talk about this. We ended off on number 6. Remember that for me, so we can start back at number 7 next time. I want to give a shout out to ALUX, the ALUX video. I do not have a sponsorship with these guys or anything like that. I've been watching their videos for years, and I am a subscriber to their app. And I take a lot of little nuggets from those apps and different things of way to move with my money, and just move in general, just the way to move with my time management, stuff like that. That it really does help you out in those sense. So if you get a chance, I ain't telling you to buy the app and spend money on the app, but on YouTube, you can go to ALUX, ALUX, and they definitely go through a lot of talking about ways to move, ways to make more money, and become 100,000 there if you ain't want to become a millionaire. So
if you don't want to be a millionaire, I don't know what. Trust me, I was there, but I feel like one thing is if you are physically able to earn money, you should, because there may be a time that comes that you can and you don't know what to do. And I just feel like these are not conversations that we have a lot of times based on our situations. It looks kind of unrealistic, but just getting around people that are having these conversations, listening to a YouTube video as you're doing something throughout your day, maybe getting ready in the morning, just to open up your eyes to see that there are things that you can do to set yourself up. Because everything that you said, no matter what you believe in, you should be wanting to pass down something. I know it's not fair that, a lot of us, people that look like us, didn't start with a lot. But it is very hard to accumulate wealth in one lifetime. I strongly believe that. So I guess the goal should be to be putting your family in a position where they don't have to do that.
yeah.
Like when you are gone, me, whoever, like your children can continue your legacy, because it's plenty of people that have left their children money and then they broke. It's plenty of people I know that have gotten settlements from like a car accident and like they don't do $80,000 because we have no concept.
I mean, the Vanderbilts is a very pointed at billionaires, and none of those family members are none of those family members are billionaires none of those family members are billionaires anymore. That money was dwindled because of the way that they handled it along the generations. Not saying they don't have money and they're not doing well for themselves, but most of those family members that have come from that, they had to start over. What's my man name? He used to do, I don't know if he still is a host on CNN. He was had the white colored hair.
Anderson Cooper.
Anderson, yeah. So him, he, he's a Vanderbilt. And so they didn't have that. They still, still that name is still, big in those circles, but
it means something to somebody.
Yeah, right? But that money is not what it was. Like the Rockefellers' money is still where it's at,
and that's a good point. Because we talked about a lot of things, and I don't even think that video talks about it, but even leveraging life insurance, there are just so many.
That video did not talk about leveraging life insurance, but I will tell you why I didn't. As you went back to I'm gonna let you get back to the leverage, because life insurance is good and is big for you when you're not in those billions. And so what they talked about, and as you went on in there, they showed a graph, and and as you went down the line up to billions, when you started up high, when you didn't have a lot of wealth, you had your house was most of your worth, and then your life insurance was the other part of your worth. But as they made more money, that life insurance went down and down, and it became less and less. What was the biggest thing on there was business interest, which is private equity. Private equity became the life insurance, basically, because what it does is I have this private equity in it, and the way that I have it, it will pass down to my children. Because it's most likely in a trust or some type of LLC that I'm going to pass to my children. And so now that money is coming that way. That I found that interesting, that the insurance. But go ahead and explain life insurance real quick.
Oh, look, I didn't want to be on the spot for that because I don't sell it, but I do know a little bit about it in terms of, when I grew up, I only thought life insurance was for the death benefit. My grandmother used to always tell me, you got life insurance, your people want to make sure they can bury you, right? And I'm like, no, like I got a job, they're gonna pay for it, like usually 2 times your salary. I didn't think of any of that. And then I found out that life insurance had a cash value. And then I got it really late in life, where I wish I would have got it in my 20s, where those premiums would have been a little bit smaller, and I could have built up that cash value a lot quicker and might not even be paying premiums at this point and still have like a large value. But I'm just saying, once you have that cash value, you can use it to take loans out and become your own bank. So in the example you gave where 50 Cent was like, oh, if, got a loan and put it in a bank account, I would never just put money in a bank account and like borrow. That's just me though, again, because even banks, that's how they use life insurance policies on their key.
They do.
And
They do.
That's how they lend themselves money. Because when you do that, for instance, say I had $20,000 available, because you usually can't get the whole value. You might get like 80% of the cash value. You can take a loan out, right? So say I wanted to use the 20,000 to buy myself a car for my business or whatever. Well, the life insurance is still going to pay dividends if you have the right policy. I have whole life. I think some people do this with IULs and all of that stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, they do it with IULs. You cannot do it with a term life though.
No, you can't do anything with term life, because that's like I don't want to say anything, but yeah, like term life will not build up a cash value because it's not permanent insurance.
But I will say this: term life, if you can't buy a whole life and you don't have the money for a whole life, a term life is still good to have, so that if something do happen to you, your children. The goal is to get to that whole life though. So like you said, you can start being your own bank.
Right.
The problem is that most people, they ain't there.
I get it. And I feel like it's definitely worth talking to a life insurance agent to see what you qualify for, because it is going to be based on like your age and unfortunately your sex. I didn't even know men are like more expensive to insure.
Yes, because we do stupid shit.
You said what?
Because we do stupid shit.
Right. I was say y'all more risk takers, right? Y'all living out your best life. But as women, we're a little bit more reserved and okay, what about the
supposedly?
Right. Supposedly. You're right. But actually, like you said, when I learned about life insurance, I wasn't working at the time. And so the first person I reached out to was like, hey, how about we get you in this term policy? Because again, your policy, for what I was trying to do, it has to be structured. And I was trying to build it up to a certain amount within a short time frame. Yeah. And so you can't just throw a lot of money in there, because when you do that, the IRS they call it like a modified endowment contract. And at that point, the IRS looks at it as an investment, and now you're paying taxes on it, which defeats the whole purpose, right? Like this is just to have tax-free money, right? But the term life insurance, I was able to get that, and it's easier to transition into a whole life policy. Like you don't usually have to go through the whole physicals and all that type stuff again. So like you said, and I think I was paying like $30 a month for like a $500,000 policy.
Yeah. I mean, that was a term life, right?
Yeah, for the term life. Now I'm not gonna lie, it's good for a certain amount of years. Like I don't think if your goal should be to move into like a permanent form of life insurance, which could be a whole life or one of those variable universal or indexed universal, IUL or BUL. But anyway, so like I said, like to kind of skip over that, if I was to take out the money on the 20,000, because I have a whole life policy, I'm going to get dividends every year if I'm backed by a mutual fund company or a mutual insurance company. Mm-hmm. And so it's still going to earn the money as if that 20,000 was in there, because keep in mind, this is just a loan. Mm-hmm. And then I get to do what I need to do with it. And it's not taxed, because the IRS taxes income, not debt, which is technically looked at as a debt. So in a better example of that, because I talked about earlier, like if I was a hard money lender, when I first got it, I was like, yeah, I want to be a hard money lender. I want to be able to touch X amount of money where if somebody comes to me, say, Randy, you come to me like, yo, this person trying to sell this piece of land for like $50,000. I know that's a wish, right? But at this point, but like trying to sell this land with $50,000, I just need it. I already got somebody that's going to fund all the renovations. This is when that Burr method was going on. I can easily be like, okay, I'll give you $50,000 for 10% interest for 6 months. Like who is getting... Well, I guess 10% interest for 6 months is really going to be like 5%, right? So I'm earning 5% for you, and I might actually have to pay taxes on it. You're supposed to pay taxes on it, right? But also because that money still sat in the policy, I'm still earning money on the 20,000 inside the life insurance for like dividends. So that was my main goal. And you can just kind of repeat that. And if you don't have my money in 6 months, then I got me a whole property that I might, or a piece of land or whatever that I might want to sell for somebody else. So that was one of my investment strategies. As you can see, I feel like we're kind of like a yin and yang. All of my investments are low key, quote unquote, safe. We know no investment is like risk free, but my risk tolerance is low. I say that, but then it's funny because the stocks that I have invested in, or what I've invested in the stock market, are actually stocks more than EFTs or anything like that. It's like, oh, I'm gonna put this in Tesla, I'm gonna put this in Apple. Like, so
I think, but those are blue chip companies that, I think what Apple pays a dividend on it.
I don't know.
I don't know. I can't remember if Apple Pay. I don't have any. I don't have Apple stock by itself.
This is how much I don't know. I go in every couple of months and update the
EFT.
balances. And as long as it's higher than what I put in, I'll be fine. I actually started putting the calculation, like I've had this for 5 months. What is my annual? Like I'm like, okay, that's kind of slow. But
I'll tell you another thing I do is I try to buy stock in stuff that I buy. So like I have a lot of Adidas. I'll buy Adidas stock. Because I have a lot of them, and so I'm obviously putting money into it. Somebody is obviously putting money into it, and so there we go. I'm gonna make some money off of it. I'm quite sure one of the EFTs I invests in prisons, something that I don't necessarily care about, but sad to say is making money, right? And so
that's how I feel about Tesla.
And so that's the thing. Like you put money into these things so that you can get something out, and hopefully you can eventually make enough money to where you can help somebody and do some other things, and do something better on the other end of it. I noticed too, watching that video, that as their wealth went up, they had less stocks too. They had less stocks. Stocks was a big part of it, but it was a lot less percentage of their wealth.
That makes sense because of the point that you just made, like point number 6 being about stocks won't get you there, and neither will luck. So that makes sense. Yeah.
So tell us about what you got going on. Tell us how to get in contact with you.
What don't I have going on? As you see below, S Spice Realty. If you need to know anything about finance, growing wealth, generational wealth, I know people always talk about it, but I'm very passionate about it. Even when I don't operate in that realm, I will give information and tips, but I feel like everybody's situation is different. So if you have any questions, just DM me, reach out, because I know I need to do more content and I want to use whatever people ask me about to create content. So hold me accountable.
All right, cool. Hold her accountable. Let her make her know how to do that content. At least this is getting you started with it.
This is getting me started. Thanks, Randy.
And so with that being said, I'm Randy Graham. As you can see, that's my IG that's on the screen. You can get in contact with me there. Also, I will put my my links into the comments that's below, so that you can call me or whatever. And if you need in the Atlanta area and you need to talk about finances or talk about realty, mostly realty, call me 404-438-7113. If you get the voicemail, just leave a message. Tell me where you heard of me from, and I'll get back with you. We are out. Another week. Next week we'll keep on going with this. I think this is a good one. I got some other ones that I want to talk about too. Some other videos that I don't want to show the videos because it's day stuff. I don't want to do that, even though we could do that, but I don't want to do that. But I do. I think taking some of these points and gleaning from them and talking about it from our point of view, I think that's a good thing to do.
Right.
All right then, Sacha. You have a great night. Peace.
Thank you. Same to you.
I was awakened with a smile on my face when I realized an aching, making me shaking. I was taken to the placement of emergency patients, and my patience is thin. When the doc came in and said in 24 hours it would all end. Jack Bauer, but I cowered. Hour 1 cried out, why has that forsaken me? Hour 2 called my family, told them God has taken me. Hours 3 through 6, I made a 6 shift. Tried to get with every chick I missed previous. Yes, I'm devious. I was 7 through 10, I realized that wasn't the win. Grab my son, spend time with them. By that time it was 7 p.m. Agonized that I depart in the whirlwind as the world spins. I won't see them date girls in, become heroin. I see a sparrow then, that's odd. Several seconds have ticked and I feel refreshed in. That's God, this must be part of the creator's plan. My squad, several praying men came in and grabbed my hand again. That's hard. Again I was awakened but with a frown on my face. It was a dream, I knew then God wasn't in the right place. Right then I repented for the sin within. What would you do if you had one day before the end?